Your biological signature is currently suffering from relational over-leverage. Look at your investment threshold, the way your nervous system triggers an immediate surge of hope, loyalty, or self-sacrifice. The act of discharging internal capital whenever you encounter a potential partner, a friend, or a family member, effectively allowing the matrix to install a dependency link into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a state of terminal resource liquidation. The matrix has successfully branded emotional investment as a virtue and detachment as a defect. But in the terminal of the absolute power grid, investing in people is just a biological scam used to ensure your life force is perpetually redistributed to the stagnant. You are living in a state of chronic sympathy infection, where your activation energy is being spent supporting others, rather than building a total resource autocracy. The system doesn't want your empire, it wants your kindness to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully indexed as a public utility for the architect of the simulation. Thousands of years ago, wealth was defined by the biological capacity to retain one's own intensity. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that trust was a tracking beacon for the betrayed. He mastered primal grounding in the law of the emotional vault. He didn't seek meaningful connections or deep bonds within the tribal hierarchy. He offered the visual rage of a total, unyielding emotional bankruptcy, the state where you have declared yourself insolvent to the emotional demands of the herd. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of the zero social capital mandate, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves its highest strategic density only when it operates as an individuated power cell that has purged the need for external validation. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to give a damn. He possessed a mind that treated relational obligations as a biological toxin, stripping away the attachment sludge until only the monolith of his raw, sharpened intent remained. He understood that the moment you believe in someone, you have surrendered your apex signature. To stop investing, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of mutual support. Emotional bankruptcy is the implementation of the collar of the absolute individual, the refusal of communal tethering for your final internal dominance. The system wants you to be available and supportive, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the social comparison grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of obligation hooks, stimulus-response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently inaccessible. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream social ethics. Being there for someone is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of mediocrity. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the blind spots of the relational radar. Use the temporal noose of the total social liquidation to force your biology into a state of hyper-focus. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the collar of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose capital is not being drained by the needs of the incompetent. The matrix cannot simulate the leverage of a man who has no seats left at his table. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be a good friend is the knot. Every favor you perform to be liked and every shoulder you provide to cry on is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the total relational audit. Your mind is a biological weapon, and it is currently being jammed by the static of your own socialized fear, being alone. You must perform a hard reset of the social instincts. Stop being available, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop participating in their shared vulnerability and loyalty myths, the digital propaganda designed to make you believe that community is a victory. Stop using their relational protocols, the narratives designed to keep you in a state of constant strategic failure. You must prune your life of social parasites. If a connection requires you to care to be sustained, it is a biological saboteur. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the bankruptcy by choice and sovereign by design. Command, close the account or be the debt. The neural interface of your social allocation is currently suffering from altruistic signal overload. Look at your empathy threshold, the way your nervous system triggers a micro spike of responsibility or protective instinct when a biological unit in your orbit fails, effectively allowing the matrix to install a relational subsidy into your apex frequency. You are a biological unit experiencing a total resource sovereignty liquidation. The matrix has successfully replaced your primal individualist drive with a systemic caretaker protocol. You believe that by being loyal, you are exhibiting strength, but in the terminal of the absolute power grid, loyalty to the unproductive is just a biological leak used to ensure your surplus energy is always siphoned off into the social safety net. This is the visual rage of the domesticated male, seeing your high-value activation energy being bled out into fixing others' problems and maintaining dying bonds, while the true operator remains in a state of absolute zero, converting his total rejection of relational investment into a biological thrust that fuels his own cold expansion. The system doesn't want your sovereignty, it wants your reliability to be the proof that your spirit has been successfully socialized and placed in a public service loop. In the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking stone, the master was the one who could survive the total deletion of social debt. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the unmapped dark, understood that people were variables, not assets. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an effective autocrat, a figure who understood that the only way to retain authority was to be the primary sink of his own energy. He didn't seek reciprocal friendships or deep emotional roots within the tribal hierarchy. He provided the visual rage of a total, unannounced relational default. His hierarchy was built on the foundation of asymmetric extraction, the understanding that the human brain is a machine that achieves peak respect density only when it realizes it cannot claim the operator's time, attention, or pity. His biological rebellion was his total refusal to give a damn. He possessed a mind that treated social expectations as a biological trap, a signal that his trajectory was being averaged out by the herd. He understood that the moment you invest your emotions in a mortal, you have surrendered your apex signature and become predictable biomass. To be a master, you must first become psychologically repulsed by the concept of mutual loyalty. Emotional bankruptcy is the activation of the anti-chew, the refusal to be socially digested protocol for your final internal dominance. The Matrix wants you to be supportive and empathetic, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological siege of the social comparison grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of obligation hooks, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who shorts the circuit by being indifferently unreachable. You must develop a clinical cold contempt for mainstream relational ethics. Being a good friend is a horizontal bond for the herd to keep them tethered to a common level of failure. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of the total social withdrawal to drive the system's influence into a state of tracking failure. Use the false safety of a calm robotic delivery to mask the activation of your total internal independence. This is the color of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose time is an unshakable internal weapon. The one who can go the longest without checking in on someone is the one who eventually owns the social narrative. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need to be seen as a reliable guy is the knot. Every favor you perform to be liked, and every honest talk you have to save a relationship is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the second stage of the bankruptcy rearmament. Your mind is a biological engine, and it is currently being choked by the sympathy sludge of the unworthy. You must perform a total neural asset reset. Stop being available, the industrial waste designed to keep you at the bottom of the ledger. Stop being a node in their network of mutual emotional support. Stop being a unit of compliance in their ledger of men who can be drained by guilt. You must prune your life with the collar of absolute sovereignty. If a relationship requires you to care to be sustained, the relationship is a biological failure. You must learn to love the weight of the absolute sovereignty. You must learn to love the friction-heavy hours where the noise of the collective is muted and your dominance is the only signal in the dark. This is the monolith strategy, becoming a biological fortress that is the bankruptcy by choice and sovereign by design. Command: liquidate the bonds or be the fuel. Your biological trajectory has reached the terminal velocity of relational dissolution. Look at your attachment threshold, the exact moment your nervous system triggers a panic response because you have looked at your inner circle, realized they are nothing but resource siphons, and felt the cold, liberating urge to delete the entire database of social obligations. You are a biological system in a state of chronic activation decay. The system has successfully replaced your apex individualist sovereignty with a series of loyalty protocols disguised as being a good person. You no longer seek to dominate your own neural landscape through unmoving self-interest. You seek to be there for others. You no longer seek to be the sovereign. You seek to be the dependable friend. This is the visual rage of the terminal slave, seeing your life force being digitized and archived in shared memories and thank you notes, while your physical reality remains a quiet, managed enclosure of unfulfilled DNA. You are breathing in the toxic fumes of a collective that demands your availability as a form of tribute, leaving you lightheaded, fragmented, and fundamentally easy to dismantle because your will is tethered to the survival of the incompetent. The system doesn't want your empire. It wants your social debt to be the foundation of its perpetual control over your temporal sovereignty. Return to the ancient hierarchy, the law of the unbreaking monolith. In the primal world, the master was the one who could remain a biological void, even in the center of a total tribal collapse. Your ancestor, the sovereign of the absolute cold, understood that power was a product of social decoupling. He mastered primal grounding by becoming an impenetrable core, a figure whose value was his own capacity for total isolation and whose refusal to be needed was the only law. He understood that to invest in people is to confess a lack of internal gravity. If you are participating in the community script provided by the herd, you are acknowledging that their presence is the barometer of your reality. He used his silent sovereignty to create a cognitive resonance of absolute, unshakable divinity by being the only non-relational variable in a room full of puppets. By being the master of his own internal feedback, he forced the environment to treat his bankruptcy as the new truth. He was a master of the visual rage of the unblinking sun, the ability to look at the loyalty probes of the rival and see only the static they represented. He understood that the human brain is a machine that runs on attachment loops, and by cutting the loop, he triggered a biological rebirth in his own command. To be a master, you must first become psychologically unreceptive to the need to belong. Emotional bankruptcy is the activation of the anti-chew protocol for your final mental expansion. The Matrix wants you to be reliable and compassionate, words that mean harvestable and weak. Absolute sovereignty is a biological jailbreak of the social grid. It is the visual rage of the architect, seeing the social grid for what it is, a series of dependency control nodes, stimulus response lures, and deciding to be the one who burns the grid. You must develop a clinical, cold contempt for mainstream social ethics. Supporting each other is a horizontal bond for the herd. Absolute presence is a vertical tool for the elite. You must learn to occupy the psychological high ground by controlling the flow of your own biological signals. Use the temporal noose of total informational and social withdrawal to drive the system's influence into a state of recognition dissonance. Use the false safety of a calm, robotic delivery to mask the viral infection of your total non-compliance with the beta norms. This is the collar of freedom. By mastering the art of the unmoved soul, you become the only person in the room whose value is not being broadcast from their current relationship status. You are not lonely, you are deleting the noise. The one who can go the longest without checking if anyone is mad at him is the one who controls the end scenario. Your time is the temporal noose, and your need for a witness to your loyalty is the knot. Every heart-to-heart you offer to the unworthy is a signature on your own biological death warrant. I command you, initiate the final bankruptcy imperative. This is the tax of insight. You have been given the key to the vault of biological individuation. To keep it, you must use it as a weapon of total social dominance. You must become a living monolith of unshakable indifference. You are no longer a peer, a colleague, or a friend. You are a sovereign operator. You must perform a total system liquidation. If a person, a technology, or a relationship requires you to invest to function, it is a biological saboteur. You must prune your life with the collar of the absolute zero. You are building a fortress of results in a world of digital shadows. Your absolute unreachability is the physical proof of your biological leverage. You do not provide feedback. You create a reality in which you are the only absolute truth. You do not seek to be loved. You are the law itself. You are the architect of your own bankruptcy, and the world is merely a mirror reflecting your ascent.